Hello, thank you for participating in our oral presentation. Today we will introduce Vue.js. We have 5 team members in our group. We divide Vue.js into 5 general topics. And here's the overview. So first, I will do a simple introduction of Vue.js. This line chart shows the popularity of these 3 frameworks on GitHub: Vue.js, React, and Angular for 2014 to 2020. As we can see in 2020, Vue.js has been up there with React among the most popular frameworks. So, what is Vue.js? Vue.js is a library for building interactive web interfaces. It only focuses on the view layer. It follows MVVM pattern, which is model view model. The biggest advantage of Vue.js is simple. It provides the benefits of the reactive data binding and composable view components with an API that is as simple as possible. It is much simpler than other frameworks, such as Angular. The programmer is able to learn Vue.js in a very short amount of time and become productive. So next, welcome Junyuan to introduce his topic.
This is Junyuan Chen. As described in introduction, the most powerful feature of Vue.js is the use of declarative rendering. It gives us the chance to only feed the input with straightforward syntax, and Vue.js will automatically return the result, unlike traditional JavaScript using HTML. The frame has different powerful libraries to do computation and DOM binding within the framework, and only requires some basic inputs. And I'm going to mainly talk about some different rendering functions in Vue.js. First is conditional rendering, which is shown on the PowerPoint. It only requires a single derivative binding with HTML element and conditional statement to give straightforward and instant feedback. But conditional rendering is actually lazy. It will constantly return the false result until it gets triggered by the choose condition. A good example could be as you can see on picture on the right side, which is our project. Until I give the proper format of the email, it won't return the choose condition. And next, I'm going to talk about list rendering. List rendering is a mechanism to retrieve value from a list, and it works almost the same way as Java for each loop. But unlike traditional JavaScript, you don't need to write a function to teach JavaScript about how to retrieve values. View rendering gives the opportunity for programmer to get a result by only feeding the desired value and the name of the list to retrieve it. And it is the essential of the declarative rendering. We no longer need to write step-by-step instruction to teach the page how to work, but the frame to do everything for you. And it also has different mutation methods to manipulate the list, like different Java methods in list library. Finally, I'm going to talk about the new mutation methods which called filter, and the power of filter is it will return a generated data that passed by a function without changing the metadata given in the data object. It can also be declared with single directive with keyword filter as shown on the picture, and similar to other rendering I have talked about, you manipulate the DOM and give you the new form the data with desired output. In fact, almost all Vue's mechanisms are using rendering.
Hi, my name is Xinrui Li. I'm going to present the Vue component. Vue component is one of the most powerful features in Vue. It extends HTML elements to encapsulate reusable code. By applying the Vue component, we can use independent and reusable small components to build a large application, which can reduce code duplication. On the next page, you can see a screenshot of our project. In the question part, there are 3 yes or no questions which has same format and functionality. We can see how Vue component simplifies the code. Before applying the Vue component, we need to write a group of HTML elements for each question and its option. After applying the Vue component, each question can be displayed by a checkbox question element. So in HTML, we can reduce the bunch of code on the left side to the third line code on the right side. The checkbox question element is the instance of the Vue component. It is registered in JavaScript and it contains a template that has a group of HTML elements. After a view component being defined, it can be used as a normal HTML element like the previous slide, which means it is possible to contain this defined component in the template of another view component. View component also contain a props feature, which can take a JavaScript object to set up an identifiable title and ID for each component instance. So this is the view component. Next, Xinyu will present the view data binding and corresponding method.
Thank you for Xinrui Li's introduction. My name is Xinyu Chen. I will talk about data binding in Vue. Data binding is one of the most famous and successful features for Vue. It can be used in several ways. The interpolation is the easiest way. User can create a parameter in the data part of Vue instance, for example, called messages, and messages value can be imported into the front-end page through double brace. Since it cannot be changed on the front end, so this is mainly used for static elements. It can be also used in Vue model for input element or in the component. And Vue model is actually a syntactic sugar I will introduce in next slide. Since Vue model is a syntactic sugar, so these two lines of code is equivalent. What Vue model is doing is first binding the value of this element to the something, which is also linked to the Vue instance data part. And then once the input element is changed, value is changed, it will trigger the method called input target value will update the value of something and also update to the data part. This is what I use for getting the uh, front end element input value for the project. And then we can also use for the Vue component. In the project, there are three components, and each one I add a Vue model to it. And in the component template, it has also have the app input method. So when these two radio buttons, one of them is clicked, it will trigger the init method, which will pass in the value of this element to this parent element, which is the checkbox question. So it will also update the value for the Vue model. Watch and computing method are two methods to monitor whether an element is changed or not. They are similar, but the watch can only monitor one element at a time. So I have to write it has lots of redundant code. So I use the computing method. Computing method can monitor many elements at the same time. If any of the elements is changed, it will call the callback method called full result and will return the result.
Hi, I'm Xilin. So I will introduce the class and style bindings. It is one of the most obvious and important features in Vue.js. It can directly enhance customers' visual experiences. Class and style bindings manipulates an element's class list and its inline styles. We use vbind to handle them. Vue.js allows you to dynamically render both styling and classes with concise lines of code and takes advantage of its data model structure. So here's a simple example in our project. We set three style in the style section: red alert, green alert, yellow alert, basically setting their background color. We also set a variable stat as 3 at the beginning. Now we use vbind to bind the style and the class together. Once one of the conditions is satisfied, then the corresponding style will be linked with that class. This is very short demo in our project. Based on user selection, the background color will be changed to express user's current status. So let's back to our PowerPoint again. So this is very simple implementation. With proper use this feature, it can greatly increase user experiences. We could apply this feature in this online shopping page, simply pressing the green and blue to change the socks color. In other scenario, we could also design the pages that allow user to change the font size, the color of the article, the background picture, even the whole style of the page could be changed, only link the style with that class. In all, it is a very useful feature in Vue.js.
Hi, it's Seven. In this part of presentation, we will talk about the Vue advantage on event handling aspect. By using the Vue v-on command, we can use several ways to bind an event to a button element. This code shows some way of Vue event handling. We can run an inline script directly or a method which we define in the Vue object. The amazing part of using Vue to handle event is that we can completely decouple the event handling from the DOM. This makes accessing a variable value much easier. We can access every variable we define in the data attribute under the Vue object by calling this dot plus variable name. Without the Vue, we have to select the variable from the DOM. In our questionnaire project, we need to save many values from the text input. Without the Vue, we need to write a lot of code to get the value we want and manually locate those text input element and remember their assigned ID. The Vue make handle function easy to understand because we don't need to look through the HTML to retrieve the actual value. The whole method is pure logic with no disturb from the DOM. This advantage will help a lot on the collaboration. Vue also makes the documentation well organized and makes the code easy to be tested and maintained. Okay, that's all for my presentation. Thank you.